Hey friends, welcome to this week's Dose of Hope. I wanted to share with you something that I trust will be helpful and hopeful for you in these days and in these times. And it's actually something that have been realizing has been at work in my life, but actually didn't realize it till today. So it's sort of a fresh discovery for me, a bit raw, a bit vulnerable, but I want to share it with you in the belief that it will be helpful for you as well. The word that kind of came to mind was actually something that Jesus said in John 14. I'm going to help. I got the help of my trusty whiteboard today. John 14:6. And Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. Now, for those of us that are in the postmodern world, which is all of us, this word truth sometimes for some of us makes us bristle. It's sort of this belief that somehow if someone can make truth claims about ourselves or whatever, that they're trying to make a power play over our lives and everything like that. But if we just actually think about what Jesus was talking about, maybe as good a translation of this word truth as any is actually the word reality. If you think about it, God himself is the one who is ultimate reality. And that is truth as in the way things really are, the way the world really is, what actually is going on in the world. And just to understand, well, God's work in our lives is actually help us understand and the way things are. And we know actually reality, while we may have problems with the word truth, we don't have problems with the word reality because, for example, we might say if someone is delusional, we would say, if someone said to you, you're delusional, that's not a compliment. It's hey, it's okay, you're delusional, I'm not delusional. No, it's like saying you're not in touch with reality, right? Someone who's delusional is not in touch with reality. So we actually know it's not good to not be in touch with reality. Reality is a good thing, to know and to see the way things really are. But someone also said, and I actually don't know who this was, but it's very true, that there are these other things called expectations. Oh no, am I going to run out of room? Expectations. There we go. And that the gap that exists between the way things are, really are, and what we expect them to be, and we were actually talking about this a few weeks ago on our Sunday gatherings, is where anger, disappointment, I'm going to shorten that. Disappointment and frustration You like that spelling? I didn't plan this out, as you can tell. Anger, disappointment, and frustration. That's the gap between how we expect things to be, what we expect life to be like, what we expect ourselves to be like, and we expect the people around us to be like, and what reality of what is actually going on. The gap between those things is where anger, disappointment, and frustration live in our lives. And to a large degree, actually, we're realizing this right now. We don't often realize that that's where the source of our anger, disappointment, and frustration is. We just kind of blame the circumstances, ourselves, people, God, or whatever, for this is what I expect. This is how things are supposed to be. We don't actually realize that there could be a gap, that sometimes our expectations are actually disconnected from what reality is. And when this happens, we find this in our lives. And so actually Jesus and God, if he is ultimate reality, going to help us see the way things really are, is actually going to also reveal that this exists in our lives. And as frustrating and as angering and disappointing as anger, disappointment, frustration are, it's actually really better to realize, wait, that's probably because there's a gap between what I expect things to be and the way they really are. And interestingly, though this gap creates these kind of negative experiences and causes frustration and stuff in our lives, one of the ways to find peace, actually, and to have less anger, less of disappointment, less frustration, is not to just lower our expectations. Well, you just can't, whatever. No, it's actually to get more in touch with reality. to find out more about, okay, where are things really at? I don't want to be delusional. I don't want to, have false hope or understanding of the way things really are. Interestingly, in this season that we're in, many of us find this, is that where anger, disappointment, frustration is like there's so many things that we just realized we thought were reality, but were actually just expectations. And now that they're not coming true, or those bubbles have been burst, or things that we hoped or planned, even just plans of what we were going to do on March break or the spring or summer or whatever, are all up in the air. Realize actually that wasn't reality. That was an expectation, or it was a hope, or it was a dream, or whatever, but it's not coming true. It might not come true, and I'm coming crashing down to reality. Now, that leaves us in this place where we can either sort of embrace a kind of hopelessness or despair, or almost like, okay, fine, I'm not going to expect anything. I'm just going to lower my expectations to the point of like, try to keep my pulse rate low, that whatever, never too high, never too low. But that sort of also would seem to drain us of what is actually really important in life: vitality, hope, and to have a joy even in the midst of circumstances that aren't exactly how we expected them to be. And so one of the ways to actually find and maintain our level of humanity and our level of joy in life, and even a sense of like hope or whatever, is actually just try to get more in touch with reality, and in many ways just figure out this dynamic and what does this look like in our own lives. This week on the blog, our Reconnect blog, which you can find on our website, thewell.ca, one of our pastors, Kate, wrote about this in her first entry on expectations. And it was just it's a really good read. You should read it. And she invited us into an exercise that I did that actually led me to a really surprising and somewhat scary place. And she said, she's talking about this gap between what we expect and the way things really are, and that God is actually trying to lead us into reality. And so she said, okay, write down a whole bunch of the things that you expect. Just start writing them down. I expect this, I expect that. And I wrote a whole bunch of things about how I expect life will go, how I expect things will go in my work and my vocation, how I expect things will go in my financial life, or how my relational life with my family, with myself, and all of those kinds of things. And I wrote down about 10 or 12 statements. And I wasn't trying to be critical about them, I just wrote them down. This is what I expect. Either some things I hope for, or I just assume will be 1 year from now, or like next week, 1 year from now. Next week is harder to now assume anything, but let's say a year from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or when I'm 65, or whatever it is. I just wrote a whole bunch of things down. And then she said, pray and ask God, which is the one that is kind of most, that he wants to talk to you about, that's most interesting. And the one that I wrote down, I was actually surprised that I wrote it down, and that it was actually the one that, kind of evoked emotion from me right away, and the one that I felt like God wanted to talk to me about. And it was this. I'm going to draw a little picture here. That is me. This is my wife. Now, I'm not being stereotypical. She has long hair, I have short hair, okay? So this is this. It's just green. Normally it's salt and pepper, as you can tell. But here's what I sort of wrote down. I wrote down that I would expect that my wife and I will grow old together and be healthy all the way through. That we will, get to, let's see, this is my kind of travel the world kind of thing. That we'll get to, do some traveling when we're older. And, we like to exercise. So here's some weights that we're going to keep, exercising. And we have 3 boys that we will just enjoy watching them as they grow older, as they do things. And this will all be kind of wonderfully happy, and a big fat check mark, the check mark there, in my life. And as I wrote it down, I just wrote that we will grow old together, that we will be happy and healthy, and we'll be able to, and implied in all of this is what we'll get to do as we get older and maybe retire one day and all that stuff. And then as I felt, like immediately as I was writing it down, I knew that was the most significant one. And I wrote down a ton of stuff, and to be honest, I don't think about this a lot most days. I just kind of enjoy my life and happily married and enjoy being with my kids. But I realized it's sort of an expectation that I don't actually have any control over. I don't know how we will age. I don't know how healthy we will be. I don't know how things will go with my kids, whether their health or their life decisions or what they end up doing with career and their relationships. I don't actually have control over any of those things. Sometimes we think we do, but I don't. And there was a lot of emotion that came up for me, if I can be honest, and a lot of sadness right away to think, well, that's maybe more in the camp of expectation than necessarily reality. I don't know how things will go. I don't know how we'll age. What if one of us doesn't make it? What if one of us dies early? What if one of us gets really sick and the other one has to care? And I'll be honest, it brought up all kinds of things in me, sadness. I think I realized there was even, if I can be honest, selfishness. Is like, no, I don't want to have to I don't want to have to care for my wife if she gets sick way earlier than I thought she would. And I thought we would have this life of activity and travel and like enjoying our kids as they're older and continuing to exercise long into our, 80s, 90s, whatever. So there's the selfishness side of it, if I can be honest. Then there was I would hate my life if I felt like I was so unhealthy or sick that I couldn't move around and that I needed her to look after me. Like, it was brought up all this stuff that, I'll be honest, as I wrote it down, I kind of felt sort of embarrassed or sad or whatever, even about that, or that it brought up these things in me. And it was moving me towards this reality, and I was like, I don't think I like this reality. But I think I'm still processing it, but I think what I realized was like, this is in there, this is underneath there, and every time subtle things happen that maybe call this into question or threaten it, that's where this stuff starts to show up in my life. And it actually led me into a really interesting prayer time with God where I said, okay, Lord, like, I don't actually know what the future holds. I can have hopes and dreams, and this is fun even to think about and dream about with my wife and whatever. But like, let's say she got really sick much earlier than I thought, and most of my life was going to be spent looking after her. Lord, prepare me for that. I don't want to be selfish. I want to accept the good and the hard things and say, well, I love her and I committed a life to her. And so I want to be able to help her if she's in that place. Or if something goes badly with one of our kids or more of them and it brings grief into our lives because we can't control the choices, either their own choice or something that happens to them. Prepare me for that. I don't want that to make my life come crashing down or me, be angry with you or angry with them. I want to be able to serve them and help them and love them and pray for them through it and persevere as a person through it. And so this whole thing about reality just helped me not prepare for the worst. I'm not a pessimist. I'm never really going to think that way, but actually go, okay, reality is I can't actually control what this looks like. So it made me just pray some prayers to say, God, in the moment, in reality now, begin to prepare my heart for whatever the future will hold. Help me be someone who's strong enough to bear up under whatever load I have to carry. That I can be thankful for all the blessings I do have in my life, that I can dream about where my life might go, but I actually need God to prepare my heart and my mind and my body to be strong enough to accept whatever comes in the future. And then also just to make me grateful for what is going on today. And so I just want to encourage you. Some of you may be going through stuff that you're like, this is not what I thought. Maybe already you're in a place in life where like the dreams and hopes and expectations that you haven't played out, or maybe even just this recent pandemic has actually thrust reality upon you in a way that's causing anger, disappointment, frustration. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. First of all, just go on and read that blog and do that exercise. It was so helpful for me. But let it lead you to some courageous praying with God to say, God, prepare me for whatever reality actually will be, because I want to be the kind of person that is able to thrive, not be delusional, and not only be happy if certain things work out, but actually be someone who has joy and is able to be a gift to the people around me, in whatever circumstances reality may find me. That's how Jesus kind of leads us into truth. And it isn't just truth about reality, it's the reality of who God is and always will be all the way through those things, while many other things may change. The scriptures tell us that he never fails. His love never fails. His mercies are new every morning. He is our rock. He is the one thing we can count on